welcome to Inside Sports Talk with your host, Joanna Rosselli. I am joined here today with my amazing co-host, Ed Cole, and by our special guest, our veteran athlete, multi-sports athlete, and radio host as well. So I just, not enough to describe one of our favorite people in sports, Ed Smith. How are you?
Doing great, and Happy New Year to both of you, two of my favorite peeps, and let's get the 2021 kicked off and put 2020 in the rearview mirror.
Yes, definitely. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy 2021. We are excited to bring you the first show of the year. You said it, Ed. We're going to go ahead and leave 2020 behind us and look forward to something positive and make 2021 much better than last year. We'll go ahead and be kicking it off and talking some NFL. It's been an exciting weekend with all the madness of what has been the NFL of the 2020 season, looking ahead into the playoff scenario. And we'll do a little recap of 2020, put it behind us, and steamroll into 2021. How does that sound, guys?
Sounds good to the two Eds.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Awesome.
You're the boss. We go. You steer the ship. You know, we're just Ed. We're just the guys on the poop deck cleaning up. You know.
I would call this one Beauty and the Beasts.
There we go.
Yes.
There's our name for the show, Beauty and the Beast. No, I'm going to do this without you guys. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for coming on, Ed Smith, my two favorite Eds in the world together. So give me a little bit of take. Week 17 of the NFL. The NFL regular season just wrapped up. And boy, were we in for something this weekend. There was a lot of excitement. We had a lot of matchups happening. We had the Cowboys and the Giants. We had Vikings and the Lions. We had also the Seahawks and the Niners, just to name a few. Chargers and the Chiefs, Packers and the Bears, Washington football team and the Eagles, your Eagles, Ed Smith. So there's a lot that happened. So what was your highlight of week 17? Let's kick it off with you, Ed Smith.
You know, for me, it was some of the playing games. You know, I would say my low light obviously was the Cardinals not even showing up. You know, obviously we had the injury to Kyler Murray, but you know, when you're facing a quarterback who's never taken a regular season snap in the NFL, and you don't walk away from that game, it's a do or die game. You win, you're in, and you know you couldn't pull it off, and not just couldn't pull it off, but just kind of just played so bad, and you know it just kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth for the off season to come. So that would be my low light. Highlight was watching all of the playing games that were really exciting. And to boot, even some of the games that had no playoff implications, even some of those games were really good, you know, coming down the stretch, you know, your Vegas against Denver and a couple others, and I've been there before. This is that time of year where, you know, it's you either start preparing to pack up your place, your temporary place and head back home, or, you know, you ask for an extension on your lease to, get a few extra days to see how far you go in the playoffs. And it was kind of cool, you know. The Browns, I'm not a Browns fan, but haven't been in the playoffs for 18 years. You feel good for their fans, you know. They get that monkey off their back. You know, you watch some of the other teams kind of go in there and do what they did. And quite honestly, that to see Washington football team, not necessarily rooting for them, but Alex Smith, how can you not root for that dude, you know? So there was just a lot of, you know, and it's sad in a way because now we go from our 16-game week. Now we're trimming it down to wild card, and then you get division and conference, and then Super Bowl. And then we go into that long slumber that's called the off season. So it was kind of nice to see, like I said, some of these games come down the stretch, some well-deserved playoff berths and some failures as well. The Dolphins, as good a season they had, to come to that kind of conclusion, really sad. So, like for me, it was like a buffet of football, and I'm full. And hopefully that'll take me, to the wild card weekend and beyond. But, great season capped off yesterday.
Ed Cole?
There were a lot of highlights for me. Just before the Cardinals game came on, I was watching the Steelers and Browns game. What a phenomenal football game that the Browns were able to hold off the Steelers, who, ironically, they will play in the wild card series. They'll go to Heinz Field, they'll go to Pittsburgh and play them, but they held off the Steelers. The Steelers had a furious rally at the end, but they couldn't convert on their 2-point conversion once they got that touchdown. But the Browns and Baker Mayfield holding off the Steelers, getting their first playoff berth in almost 20 years. Since 2002, they haven't been in the playoffs. It took them 18 years to get in the playoffs, but as Ed said, I congratulate the Cleveland Browns for what they were able to do. A couple of years ago, Joe and Ed, they were 0-16. Mm-hmm. Now they're in the playoffs. What a great turnaround for that organization. Kevin Stefanski's come in and done a masterful job in his first year with the Cleveland Browns, took them to the playoffs. That was one of my highlights. Flipping between the Titans and the Texans, that was a great game. Derrick Henry went over 2,000 yards rushing. He absolutely gashed the Texans for the second time this year. He had 250 yards rushing, Ed. This guy cannot be stopped.
Combine the two games, Ed, I think he, against them, I think he almost had 500 yards because I think he ran for 2-something.
212 in the first game. Yeah, 462 and 4 touchdowns in those 2 games against Houston. I know the defensive coordinator for the Texans he's got to be having nightmares. He's got to be dreaming about Derrick Henry all night long because Derrick Henry's unstoppable. I'm excited to see the Texans, the Titans, and the Ravens this weekend. That is going to be a great wild card matchup. I cannot wait for those 2 great running teams. It's just going to be a matter of who's going to run further, which team can run the ball better, and which defense can stop the other team's running game. And that's going to be a hard one. But that one and trying to see whether they were going to pull their game out, whether the Indianapolis Colts were going to be able to hold off the Jacksonville Jaguars, the team that has the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. They were trying to hope that the Texans would beat the Titans so they could get the AFC South Division title, but that didn't work out. But still, Indianapolis made the playoffs. The Ravens looked really good yesterday against the Cincinnati Bengals. On Sunday, absolutely destroyed them. They had over 400 yards rushing, Joe and Ed, against the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, they're a 4-11-1 team, but still, Ed, you know that the players on the Bengals, they get paid just like the Ravens do. They get paid lots of money. They're men just like the Ravens are. So you rack up 400 yards against the Bengals defense still. You play who's on your schedule. Ed, you know that better than anybody.
Oh, absolutely. There's no, I mean, at this point in the season, there's no bones about it. The teams that are in the playoffs, you earned it. This isn't because you won a game in week 17. This is for what you did from week 1 through 17. So,
yes,
kudos to all of them.
And I think it's cool that the NFL scheduled all these division rivalry games at the end of the season for week 17 because they know stuff like Washington against Philadelphia and the Giants against Dallas. Those are games that come down to that week. And games like the Titans and the Texans and the Colts and the Jaguars come down to that week, that very game. And games like the Packers and the Bears are fighting for a playoff spot. The Cardinals are fighting for a playoff spot. Well, at least they were until they played the Rams. So there's so many implications that go into these rivalry games that come down to week 17. And like Ed, my low light is the Cardinals only getting 214 yards of offense, Kyler Murray being in and out with that ankle injury, and Chris Streveler not being able to drive his offense, albeit against the number 1 defense in the National Football League. It would be hard for Aaron Rodgers to do anything on him against them, Joe. I know that's too much to your dismay that I said that, but the Rams defense, that's a championship caliber defense. And we saw it twice this year with what they were able to do against the Cardinals. That was my low life. Only getting 7 points in a do or die situation. And the week before against the 49ers, they couldn't bust a grape. 4 for 16 on third downs in that game, and they were 2 for 9 on Sunday against the Los Angeles Rams. Just their offense was completely inept the last couple of weeks, and that was one of the main reasons why they're not in the playoffs and they're at home and they're going home. They'll be on vacation.
I want to ask you this, whichever you wants to go ahead and jump in and answer. And we're talking Cardinals and how we saw what came out of that game, and just unfortunate to not see them. They did have, they had control of it, or up to a certain point, they were in control of possibly making the playoffs. They came way short on that. We saw the troubles that they've been facing throughout the season, and we got to see that in that game yesterday. On Sunday against the Rams. What do the Cardinals have to do to overcome the challenges, not only this last season, but even last season, these last couple of seasons that they've just come back short. Like came out strong at the beginning of the season, and they're just, especially when they're facing teams like the Rams, the Seahawks, even the 49ers, those games that are very, they're imperative for them to win, and they just keep coming up short. They come out even against the Bills, before the Bills became the Bills, beating Dolphins 56-26 on Sunday. That's just, my gosh. So what do they have to do to be a better team in 2021?
Go ahead and hit that one, Ed.
Well, we'll have to see what happens with the free agency situation. Kenyon Drake is one of their main free agents. He was a major cog for the Cardinals ever since coming over from the Miami Dolphins, kind of midseason last year. This year, he had almost 1,000 yards rushing. So he was a major focal point as far as the Cardinals are concerned. We'll see if Steve Keim and Michael Bidwell and Cliff Kingsbury can work this situation out to bring him back. We want the offensive line to be stronger for Kyler Murray, because we know he needs to have a strong offensive line because of what his special skill set. He's very unique, and he needs to have an offensive line that can keep him upright and mobile and able to get out and do all the crazy things he does on an offensive basis. Who knows what's going to happen with Larry Fitzgerald, whatever he decides to do in the offseason. Maybe he hangs it up after 17 years. Maybe he decides to come back. Only Larry knows that. So everything's up in the air as far as the wide receiver position goes. We'll see if they can find a way to get Andy Isabella more involved next season, because we know he is a threat to break it every single time. DeAndre Hopkins, I know he was frustrated on Sunday because he didn't have his guy. He didn't have Kyler Murray, and he had no connection with Chris Streveler. And we saw the frustration in the fourth quarter when he got that offensive pass interference. Then he got that unsportsmanlike conduct when he said some unpleasantries to the referee. So we saw his frustration. And Patrick Peterson's a free agent. So if he doesn't come back, the Cardinals will be in the market for a cornerback. So that'll be one of their main focal points as far as the NFL draft comes in April when it comes to Cleveland. But Cliff Kingsbury needs to take that step and kind of look in the mirror, like PLR said on his show on Monday. He's got to take a look in the mirror and say, what can I do as a head coach to make my team better? What were some of my faults? What were some of the things that I wasn't not able to do to get my guys in the correct in the proper position to get to the playoffs? What were we not able to do on Sunday in Inglewood against the Rams to get us into the playoffs? And he's got to be able to learn from a head coach just as much as the players need to learn and get better. And Ed knows this, of course. This 2020 team will not be the 2021-22 team will not be the same as this team that we saw here. There's going to be so much change as far as coaches and players go. People are going to come, people are going to go. And that's going to be another learning experience for Cliff Kingsbury when he has some new players and potentially some new coaches come in.
And you hit it right on the head with several of your comments, Ed. Coaching, step one. One of the things that Cliff is going to have to learn is not only is he just head coach by title and offensive coordinator and guru, he's actually the CEO of his team. And what I want to see from him moving forward is having a better grasp on the entire team, not just the offense. And that's one thing that, young coaches are going to have to kind of experience, and we know the on-field calling of plays and when to call timeouts and when to challenge this and when to huddle the team, whether it's the offensive side, defensive side, special teams. Those are all things he's going to learn as he gets a little more mature. The other thing is, people think it's just easy. You put a good staff together, you put a good roster together, and you go out there and you win. We saw earlier that the Cardinals at that 5-2, 6-3 point, everybody was high on the wagon. We're just, hey, we're going to ride this thing. You don't understand. You have to start developing a culture in an organization. We're not quite there yet. We've been so used to the roller coaster for a while. We had that one magical season a few years ago at 9-7, rode that to the Super Bowl. But you mentioned